Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far and welcome to today's video where I have in my paws the Discovery set from Charlotte Tilbury, all 6 of her new fragrances. I've been testing these out over the last couple of days, and so I'm going to be giving you all of my thoughts on these fragrances, how they wear, how they perform, how I like them, and ranking them in order from my least to most favorite. So if you want to know all of my thoughts on all 6 of her new fragrances, then keep watching. Okay, so if you didn't know, then Charlotte Tilbury has recently leapt with both feet into the fragrance realm. She has released one perfume previously, a standalone that has long since gone, but this time she was not messing around. She has given us not 1, not 2, but 6 whole perfumes for our smelling pleasure. And luckily for us, she has also released this little Discovery set. So this Discovery set contains 1.5 mils of each of the available fragrances for you to test and try at home, so you can decide for yourself whether you want to buy any of the full-sized bottles. I love when brands do this. I think it's so helpful. It's really, really great that you can try them at home and not just have to blind buy and hope for the best that you're going to like the fragrance. You can try all of them. Some of them might surprise you. This is how I find some of my most loved fragrances, because a lot of the time on paper a fragrance might sound amazing and then in reality it just doesn't work with your skin chemistry, and then on paper you might not like something, it might not be for you at all, and then the reality is much better than you thought. So I love that she's done a Discovery set and that she's done it at launch, so we haven't had to wait months after the full sizes have been out. She's launched these at the same time. I love that for us. So this Discovery set will set you back £25, and like I said, you get 1.5 mils of each of the 6 perfumes. That is a really good size. Typically when I'm ordering samples before I buy a fragrance, I will go for a 1 mil, and that is absolutely enough to give, you know, a good soaking and really let the perfume settle and really experience the perfume. So I think 1.5 mils is perfect. That will give you at least 2 or 3 days of going heavy with the application to really know how you love a fragrance or not. The full size bottles are 100 mils each, and they will set you back £130. She has also released a 10 mil travel size option, which will set you back £20, which again, I love. I think this whole release, as far as the options, is great. I love that we have those travel sized 10 mil options, perfect for going on holiday or popping in a handbag. What I wish she had done is given us a travel atomizer to pop them in. That would have just been it for me. I would have loved if she'd done that. If you do go for the full size 100 ml bottle, you will also receive a 1.5 ml, so the same size that is in the Discovery set, of your chosen perfume, so that you can try it first before you open and commit to keeping the perfume. And I love it when brands do that with perfumes. You'll receive the sample, you can try the sample first, and if it's not for you, you can send the 100 ml perfume back for a refund. I love that, because it's so important that we actually get to try perfumes before we buy them. They're very expensive and they just don't work the same for everybody. You know, depending on your skin chemistry, depending on the environment and the climate that you live in, fragrance is going to perform and smell very differently on each individual person. It's just how it reacts with your skin, with the natural warmth of your body and the environment that you're in. It doesn't always smell exactly the same on everybody. So it's really great that we've got all of these different ways to try the fragrances, even if you can't get in store to sample them. One thing I will say, when you are trying fragrances out, not just these, but any fragrance where you've purchased one of these little teensy tester size perfumes, one thing to be aware of is you need to go to town with spraying these to actually get an idea, a picture of the real performance of a perfume. And when you're using one of these, you've got to spray liberally, soak yourself, because these little misters are in no way comparable to a full-size perfume bottle. They usually are pretty cheap, they usually are very, very small, and they aren't going to dispense the same amount in one spray versus one spray of a full-size perfume bottle. So that is something I've definitely learned along the way on my fragrance journey, that when you're using one of these, don't just do like 1 or 2 sprays like you would a full-size perfume. You need to do a lot of sprays to get a realistic picture of how the full-size bottle would perform, because they just are not the same. And not all sample bottles of perfume are equal as well. Some I have tried from very luxury fragrance houses where these perform very nicely and spray really nicely. These are not the best I have tried. So they don't spray a lot, and they don't spray in a particularly like glorious mist. They're a little squirty. I'm so sorry for using that word. You know, they dispense a little heavier than, you know, a glorious full-size bottle would mist. So bear that in mind when you're trying these out. Don't just give it one spray on your wrist and think, oh, it's so weak. You've got to really go to town with the sprays to get an idea of the performance. So don't fall into that trap that I have done before. They will not perform as well as a full-size bottle unless you really do a lot of sprays. A quick note, obviously I don't have a full-size bottle with me, but I just want to comment on the packaging. I am a little sad about it. Someone had commented on my community post when I posted about these, saying they very much remind them of like Harry Potter, and they really do. They very much give that mysterious sort of potion type of bottle. It's not my favorite bottle. I would like to get my hands on a full-size bottle just so I can really see. A lot of these perfume bottles end up looking a lot nicer in person than the pictures might look or appear. So I would like to have a look at a full-size bottle just to really decide and feel how weighty and luxurious it feels. But these are not my favorite bottles that I've ever seen. I prefer something cleaner and more understated and elegant. These are very loud, and they look a little young and youthful to me. So they aren't my favorite bottle, I will say that, just based on the pictures. But obviously I don't have one here to give you a real vibe of how they appear in real life. That aside, let's get on to my thoughts. So I received my discovery set yesterday, and I immediately put all 6 on various parts of my body. Don't ask which parts. Taking it to the grave, because I wanted to really experience the entire journey of the fragrance and not just give you my first impressions of the opening of each of these fragrances. So I did wear all 6 of these all day yesterday, and I still have them on my body from yesterday, and there are some surprising results here. Okay, there's some very surprising results. So I'm going to give you all of my thoughts on the entire fragrance journey of each of these 6 fragrances and how they perform, and I'm going to go from 6th to 1st place, my own personal preference and feelings about each of these fragrances. I would love you to guess, have a guess of what you think my number 1 is, and then maybe have a guess of which you think is going to be my least loved before we go any further. No cheating, okay? So in 6th place we have Joyphoria. This is an amber floral. This, I very much knew this was going to be lower down the rankings, unless it was very, very surprising to me, because I am not a floral girl, okay? I don't really wear florals at all. The amber element gave it half a chance with me, but looking at these notes, there's a lot of like white florals in here, and there's just not a lot that I look for when it comes to fragrances as far as the notes, and therefore it was very unlikely to ever be a big love of mine. It's a nice, you know, fairly simple white floral fragrance. I don't get a lot of vanilla from it. I do get quite a bit of those powdery notes, which again, I'm not a big fan of. I think you just need a totally different taste in perfume to me if this is going to be the one that you go for, because like I said, I'm not a white floral girl. If you love a creamy, powdery white floral, this is probably going to be your number 1 favorite. I also found this one to have the weakest performance of all 6. It was very quickly pretty much a skin scent on me. It does wear well. I will say actually across the board, all 6 of these have great longevity. What varies is the projection, which is normal in fragrance for fragrances to vary in how much they project and their sillage and the trail that they leave. This one was very much a quieter, more skin scent, very office appropriate. I don't think it's going to offend anybody. It's very sort of, you know, likable, but for me, it's just not my jam. Didn't perform as well as I would have liked it to, and therefore 6th place. I knew it would be, it's just not the type of fragrance that I enjoy personally. In 5th place, very unsurprisingly again, it's Love Frequency. But hold your horses, okay? Just as much as I am not a white floral girl, I'm absolutely never a rose girl, okay? I am not someone who, in fact, if I see rose in a scent profile, typically it's an immediate no for me, because in the vast majority of fragrances that feature rose, rose is very dominant. It's a very dominating note. It kind of overpowers everything else in most rose fragrances. There are some exceptions to that rule, but they're rare. You know, the rose has to be incredibly well blended and balanced in order for me to even like a fragrance that has rose in it. So looking at the description of these notes and just the fact that the bottle is very pink and the pictures, the marketing images very much screaming rose, rose, rose at me, I knew I wouldn't love this one. But wait a minute, because I definitely like this more than I thought I was going to. Now, I'm not going to say that this isn't rose heavy. It absolutely is. But this fragrance, for a rose heavy fragrance, actually had a more interesting journey than I expected. Again, typically very heavy rose bomb perfumes are, you know, they kind of have a very linear journey. They start, middle and end is all very, you know, the same. It's very linear. But this one for me actually had quite an interesting journey. You definitely get a bit of that pepper in the opening, and I definitely picked up on some of that saffron. And I would say towards the opening and the middle of this fragrance, it wasn't just rose. There were some other little hints, and it was more blended and more balanced than I expected, and it was definitely more interesting. This has great performance. If you are a Delina, Parfums de Marly Delina girl, this is definitely not as smooth and sophisticated, I would say, as Delina. This is like a Delina's younger sister, I would say, but I think it's got a more interesting scent journey. Like I said, it evolves throughout the fragrance, and I really enjoyed that, and I thought the performance was really, really good. It's one that the next day I can still smell on my skin. It had a nice, you know, sort of 1 to 2 foot sillage in the first few hours. It warmed up on my skin, absolutely. It is still quite cool here. We're not basking in the summer months yet, so the weather is not helping my skin. My body temperature is still very chilly. In fact, jumper weather. So weather and heat is not helping any of these fragrances, but that aside, it still did sort of warm up and project a little more on my skin, and I thought it was a really nice but still pretty rose heavy fragrance. The dry down is very much what you would expect from those notes. It is a sort of slightly musky, slightly woodsy, but very dominant rose fragrance. And again, just not my typical style of perfume. In 4th place, we have Magic Energy, and this bottle is absolutely giving Slytherin, isn't it? If you are a Slytherin, I feel like you see this bottle and this is all for you. Although I will say that the juice inside is not really very Slytherin-y, but the bottle, absolutely. So Magic Energy is an aromatic aquatic fragrance. I love that little bit of almost alliteration going on there. Now this was one that I was really intrigued to get my nose on, because some of these notes I was alarmed by. Seaweed? I was alarmed and very curious about this one. It definitely doesn't smell as weird as I expected it to. Let me just say that. Again, I'm not really an aquatic girly when it comes to my perfume, but a lot of the notes in here really did intrigue me. It definitely does not have, you know, when you look at some of these notes and you see cypress, seaweed, frankincense, ambergris, and I'm thinking, what on earth is this going to smell like? I think it's really quite green and a little bit earthy. It's definitely giving me those greener, earthy vibes. I don't really feel this leans really aquatic. It's more sort of herbaceous to me. It's very sort of almost medicinal, very green, very fresh. You could be lost in the woods. That's what this is giving me. Very fresh and light and really interesting with that sort of woodsy hint. It really is quite an interesting fragrance. It's not one, again, that is typically what I lean towards, but I really appreciated this. This had a really solid performance, really long wearing. Again, it's another one I can still smell on my skin this morning. And while all of these fragrances are unisex, as I believe any fragrance is, anyone can wear any fragrance they like, this does lean more towards a masculine and more traditional masculine scent for me. Absolutely, women can wear it and can wear whatever you would like, but there's really very little sort of sweetness in here. Very interesting, really like that one. It's not the type of fragrance I would typically buy a full bottle of, but slightly sexy as well, and it's one that you have to keep going back to smell because it is a very intriguing scent. Not like a lot else that I have smelt. Now in third place, we have the big surprise really, and that is Calm Bliss. This is one I really didn't expect to like at all. And yes, it's in third, it's not first, but I would have put this sixth or fifth for sure on paper looking at these notes. So this one is a floral aquatic, and oh, it's lovely. And actually for a pretty aquatic fragrance, it performed really solidly. It was not a skin scent. It had some really good sillage in there and some great longevity, but it really does hit the mark as far as the description for me. I think if you like this on paper, you will not be disappointed. It's definitely giving me like I'm on a yacht and we're cruising around an exotic island that has lots of white florals, maybe a couple of citrus trees on it, and you're just getting wafts of that as you sail around, the warm sun beating down on your skin. That's exactly what this fragrance is giving me. It also has, again, a really nice scent journey. It really evolved and actually warmed up quite a lot on my skin throughout the sort of journey of the fragrance. I really enjoyed this one. I'm not really an aquatic fragrance type of girl, but this is one that I would absolutely buy a travel size of for holiday, because this is the type of fragrance I actually love on holiday, especially in warmer weather. And it really does smell very tropical, but not in an obvious pack full of fruits way. It is that more aquatic hint of citrus, hint of floral, warm ocean notes. You know, if you like Dolce & Gabbana light blue, this will be your type of fragrance. It's beautiful, does exactly what you would expect on the tin, with perhaps a way better performance than you might expect. Not my typical fragrance on paper, but one that I really appreciated and enjoyed, and I think hit the mark beautifully. So in second place, it's Cosmic Power, and this is one that on paper is right up my street. Described as an aromatic spicy, anything with the word spicy in it, and I'm in, count me in. This is so interesting to me. It definitely smells quite different to maybe what I expected. The word that immediately leapt into my brain the first time I smelt this is sparkling. It really has this really interesting, juicy, sparkling note in there. I'm not sure, looking at the notes, what is doing that. It's maybe the elemi, I'm not 100% sure, but it's that beautiful combination of the bergamot and the cinnamon in the opening that really wakes you up. It's a very sort of awakening fragrance. This really sort of energetic, sparkling, slightly fruity, but with a lovely bit of sweetness and spice coming from the cinnamon. And then the dry down begins and you really do get quite a bit of the powdery notes coming through. This was the best performing of all 6 of the fragrances for me. It had the most projection. I could smell it. I was getting wafts of it all day. Really long wearing, really great, larger sillage, larger projection, and that sort of sparkling note stays throughout as the vanilla and the powdery notes come through as it dries down. it still stays with that sparkling note that stops it becoming a bit too, you know, what people refer to as like old lady fragrance. That sparkling note really kept it a bit sort of livelier and a bit more youthful. Again, a really nice scent journey, not something that just stays linear. You know, you start off with the cinnamon and the bergamot and it being a little citrusy and a little spicy in the opening. Then you get a little bit of that rose, but it is really nicely balanced. The rose doesn't really heavily dominate. You just get a little hint of the rose in the middle. And then comes the vanilla, musk, amber, and those powdery notes. And you can smell all of the notes in this fragrance. It's really beautiful. Again, it's kind of different to anything really that I've smelt before. I did see someone who left a comment, a review of this on the Fragrantica website, and I think they nailed it. They said this very much smells like Angel if you took out the praline note, and I think that is what it is. That it's very much got that same DNA without the real gourmand quality that Angel gets. Beautiful. Definitely the strongest of the whole collection. And then slightly unfortunately for me, because I don't love the name of this perfume, but the number one for me of all 6 of the fragrances is More Sex. I said this in my Will I Buy It when I talked about these perfumes. I don't want to be walking around and have people ask me what perfume I'm wearing and have to say that. But as expected, this is my favourite of all 6. On paper, it was just always going to be for me and tickle my pickle. This is described as an amber woody fragrance. It's got a lot of the notes that I look for when I'm choosing fragrances. You know, leather especially is one of my absolute favourite notes. I love ambroxan, amberwood, sandalwood, musk. It just sounds very interesting to me. Black pepper and juniper berries in the opening also sounded really interesting to me. What I will say is this started off much quieter than I thought it would based on paper. Typically those sort of really woodsy, warm, spicy type of fragrances are very overpowering in their performance, and this one was much quieter than I expected. But what happened is really started to warm up. I'd say when I first sprayed it, I thought, oh no, it's much weaker than I hoped. But as it sort of warmed up on my skin, it really started to kick into gear. And this is one that I can still absolutely smell on my skin still this morning. And I think if anything, it sort of got stronger throughout the day. And so I really started to love it as the scent journey progressed. Oh, it's so beautiful. I love this one. It's got that real bit of juiciness from the berry notes, but otherwise it's a woodsy, musky, warm, spicy fragrance. You absolutely get a really nice clear leather note, which I love, but it's not too much. It's not overwhelming. It's not so much that it smells very masculine or it's not office appropriate or you couldn't wear it in the daytime. I think it's just the balance of those juniper berries in there that keep it sort of light and fresh enough that it's more versatile than you might expect. Again, leans more traditionally masculine than a lot of the fragrances in this collection, but I would absolutely wear this. It's beautiful. It is warm, spicy, but at the same time it stays quite light. And it never gets smoky or too rich or too cloying. It doesn't feel overwhelming even when it heats up on the skin. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone told me it had a bit of oud in there. It's not listed on the fragrance notes, but I feel like I'm picking up on a little bit of oud. It may just be the leather combined with some of those other notes, but oh, this is right up my street. Really beautiful fragrance and my favourite of all 6. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on all 6 of these new fragrances from Charlotte Tilbury. This was so fun for me. I love these little discovery sets. I wish more brands would do these because they're so helpful when you're trying to choose a fragrance, and it's just fun. I love nothing more than playing with a load of little samples of new fragrances. I was impressed overall by this line. I think you've kind of got something for everybody in here. The biggest negative for me is the bottles. I just really wish that they had been a little more understated and more clean and a little more elegant. I feel like it's a decent price point for 100 mils of fragrance. They've got some amazing perfumers and noses working on this collection, and I feel like the bottles definitely kind of take away from the upmarket, elegant, classy, niche perfumery that is going on in the background of these fragrances. But obviously, you know, Charlotte, she loves her packaging to be fun, and maybe this is more targeted at a younger audience than me, but I really enjoyed all of these fragrances, even those fragrances that weren't really for me, you know, like Love Frequency. I don't really love rose fragrances, but I could really appreciate that one, that it wasn't just your standard average smells like every other rose perfume. There's something a little interesting about it. I'm not going to lie to you, these impressed me a lot more than I thought that they were going to, and I was pleasantly surprised. Please let me know if you have tried these perfumes in the comment section down below, what you thought of them, how they performed for you, which is your favorite. Let me know all of your thoughts. Do you like the bottles more than I do? Please let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. But I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I would love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.